back to another episode of Fired Up for Friday, the podcast, letting you know what has me fired up for this Friday, August 7th of 2026. I got a little bit of a lighter week on releases for you, but I have some heavier weeks coming up. So make sure you smash that like, subscribe, do all those kind of things, because you don't want to miss all the heaviness coming up in the rest of August. There's some badass bangers dropping later this month. And before we get started, please let me know what has you fired up for this Friday's releases. I'm always telling you what has me excited up, but I want to know what has you excited. So please leave me some recommendations, or maybe some stuff you've been digging on the last couple weeks. Leave all that kind of stuff in the comments so I can check out more metal. I need new picks too. So without further ado, let's dive on in and see what has me fired up. In a land named after the shine of silver, Argentina seems darker than ever before with this latest release live in Europe from Mephistofeles off of heavy Psych Sounds. Recorded over 2 days in October and November of 2025 while they were touring over in Europe, hence Live in Europe, the album title. This live album does a great job of capturing those dark and ominous feels that tie each song together across both discs of this 2-disc album. And again, this is a hefty release, 20 songs over 2 discs. So if you buy vinyl, that's like 4 sides. So much math. But this darkened performance shows the talents of this live trio getting only one shot to capture and execute at this live performance. There's no retakes like the studio. And they recently signed the Heavy Psych Sounds to reissue their catalog. While they're reissuing their entire catalog, Live in Europe is a great showcase of those talents that Mephistofeles has, helped out by some vocals that are almost as dramatic as the music. For fans of bands like Saint Vitus and Pagan Altar, and with a retooled lineup, if you're a fan of that dark and dreadful, check out Live in Europe. I'm giving this a 76. But if I were you, I would head over and see what's lurking in the shadows over there in Europe, because it damn sure sounds dark. And while we're talking about ominous feelings, darkness, and depression, let's follow it up with some more blackness. The best part about art and music specifically is that it's completely subjective, and each listener might have a different approach when listening to each album. And I started noticing that between different stereo systems, each album can even sound different at the way they're EQ'd, offering each listener, and sometimes several listens, a different vantage point. So when Crude Exhibitions of the Soul by Flowers of Rust was sent over my way, which is a depressive black and metal album, I figured I would just give it the old college try. I was unfamiliar with it. And I started to wonder as I was listening to Crude Exhibitions of the Soul, what it was that's so dark, so heavy, and so solitary. It was when I realized that multi-instrumentalist Jake O'Brien was from Cleveland. It finally all made sense. Have you ever been to Cleveland? And while I found this to be one expansive and calming album, as the skies here were dark as hell when I pressed play, they seem to somehow get even darker after I did. This melancholy rocker was a nice soundtrack to a quiet, comfortable morning where I chose to enjoy the gray of the skies with Crude Exhibitions of the Soul soundtrack, of course. And with doom influences all over its blackened material, it provided one unique sound that seems to be as colorful but yet as intricate as solitary can be. For fans of bands like Leviathan, Altar of Plagues, and those other dark and deep sounds. And I'm giving this one a 78 with clouds and a 98% humidity because it sure as hell feels like it's gonna rain when you're listening to this dark album. Some genres are so damn broad it feels to me sometimes like a catch-all of just shoving bands into to try to describe their sound. Where sometimes I feel it would be more beneficial to listeners if somebody gave a more refined description. So entering a band that probably doesn't care what the hell you classify them as this thing leads way into the rocking side of the stoner rock category. And this is an amazing effort on the newest release from 10,000 Years, Esox Lucifer, off the wonderful Ripple Records. And why is it called Ripple Records? Look at the art! It sure sounds like they're making waves on this one. From the moment you press play to the last note ringing out, this groovy rocker touches on all things that appeal to me from that stoner rock doom psych category. Whether it was those atmospheric, fuzzed out groovy grooves, the little pocket carved out by the drums, or the passionate vocals that are laid on top of the music that's just being steamrolled by the rest of the band. Did I mention this album rocks? And I hear influences from some of the stalwarts of the stoner rock category. I hear similar influences to other stalwarts with stoned out riffs, like Kylesa, High on Fire, maybe even Black Tusk, and more of those bands that mix those expansive atmospheric feels with those sludgy weight and tones, but also making it an easily digestible album to get through. Stretch your neck out before pressing play on this, please. You're gonna be banging your head whether you want to or not. With tons of sincerity, I'm giving this album an 84 because it looks like the water is that warm. This album is hot. It's been said by a very wise man that you can't cross a line that you can't find, and that's very true. Which leads me to ask, where is the line between death metal and extreme metal? Both of those can equally be as brutal. So allow me to introduce the Indonesian metal monsters in Vertiginous with their vile blend of murder on their sophomore release, Incessant Afflictions, off of Comatose Records. I don't know why that's so hard to say. Which is a perfect label for this incessant afflictions to be upon. Mutilating snare drums with anguish. This Indonesian nightmare of a metal band laid to rest any rumors of a sophomore slump, as this album is great. And for those of you who watch me regularly, you'll know that I'm not a big fan of brutal death or a lot of that murder, extreme metal, gore grind kind of vibe. Most of that violence, bloodshed, murder, cutting people up, it seems awfully corny and cheesy to me, so I'm not a big fan of that genre. I really enjoyed Incessant Afflictions, as the vocals were lowered just a little bit in the mix, which allowed the guitars to push up a bit, because oftentimes I find the string department muddies out a little bit in the mix with so much chaos from the low end mixing with the rhythms of the string section. But none of that happens here. Guitars are great, the tone is spot on, and the vocalist stays out of that pig squeal territory, and for that I thank you. I like this brutal album a ton. This is probably the highest I gave a brutal death metal album maybe ever, in an 81. I like this heavyweight literally a ton, so I'm giving it an 81. Some backbreaking heavy go lift with your legs, please. And now, the album of last week. Thank you guys for hanging out with me another episode. What did I get right? What did I get wrong? What are you looking forward to dropping this Friday? What have I missed these last couple Fridays that you've been digging on? Let me know in the comments. Thanks to the band's labels, PR, for all of this fire they sent over. And thank you so much for hanging out with me another week. See you in the pit.